On April 21st and 22nd of 2016 in Pike County, Ohio, 8 people were shot, execution style. All 8 were related. They were the Rhoden family. The bodies of 7 of the victims were found on the 22nd in Peebles, Ohio. In 3 different homes were the bodies of 6 adults and 1 16-year-old boy. The 8th victim was found in his home on the 22nd as well, but a little further away in the town of Piketon. Investigators had concluded that this was premeditated and that they knew the Rhodens. Illegal operations such as marijuana grow and cockfighting at the crime scenes were not connected to the brutal slayings. This investigation became the largest in Ohio's history. Then, in November of 2018, 4 suspects were arrested in the states of Ohio and Kentucky. Just like the victims, they too were all related. They are the Wagner family, and they knew the Rhodens well. At 7:51 a.m. that morning, police received the first 911 call. Bobby Jo Manley, who is the sister of the victim, Dana Rhoden, went to Dana's house on Union Hill Road to feed her pets. There she found 2 of the 8 victims before the police arrived. Bobby Jo ran to another house on the property to get help, and there she discovered 2 more victims. She then contacted her brother. They both then decided to check on their sister Dana. It was in the 3rd home they found 3 more victims. The 8th victim was not discovered until 1:26 p.m. of that same day because of another 911 call that was made. But this time, it came from the nearby village of Piketon. 3 young children ages 3, 6 months, and a 4-day-old infant were found at the crime scene. Luckily, they were found alive. 6 of the 8 victims were shot in the head only. The other 2 victims, Dana and Christopher Rhoden Sr., had additional gunshot wounds in their neck, torso, and limbs. There was a total of 32 gunshots fired that day. For one reason or another, the media could not get the coroner's office to release the full autopsy report, and it took a case in front of Ohio Supreme Court on September 19, 2018, to finally release it to the public. Gary Rhoden was the first to be buried on April 28th in South Shore, Kentucky. Hannah was the next on May 1st in Otway, Ohio. The remaining victims were buried on May 3rd at West Portsmouth. There was heavy security at the funerals. Also, to help the family pay for the funerals, Mike DeWine, the Attorney General at the time, approved a gift of more than $20,000. Ohio Governor John Kasich described the killings as tragic, beyond comprehension. Early on, the police believed there definitely was more than one shooter, because 2 of the 4 crime scenes were within walking distance. The 3rd was about a mile away, and the 4th was about 8 miles away. Ohio Attorney General Mike DeWine stated these were planned, premeditated, and a sophisticated operation. He stated this because the killers tried to cover up their crimes by removing some forensic evidence. As a result of this horrible crime toward the Rhoden family, the surviving members were urged to take precautions. Not only the Rhoden family, but all residents of Peebles were urged to stay in their homes that evening and the following evening as well. The Ohio Bureau of Criminal Identification and Investigation had over 100 members. Combined with 251 law enforcement officers, they all were assigned to this case. 25 sheriff offices across Ohio, the DEA, and the FBI all contributed resources to the authorities on this case and also to the Ohio Attorney General's office. At this point, there have been over 50 people interviewed, multiple search warrants issued, and 79 pieces of evidence were examined. The police found something that caught their eye, though. It was a Facebook post to Christopher Rhoden Jr. It was a threat. The presence of hundreds of cannabis plants at 3 of the crime scenes on Union Hill Road led authorities to consider this may be the work of a Mexican drug cartel. Dana Rhoden's father disagreed. He stated it had to have been someone they knew, because Dana had 2 protective dogs that do not let anyone they do not know onto the property. Police also confirmed there was no evidence of a dog attacking anyone. Also, there was no sign of forced entry at any of the crime scenes. On May 3rd, immediately after the funerals, the task force gathered all the victims' vehicles to look for any evidence. They also removed the mobile homes. And then, tips began pouring in. About 500 of them came in before May 12th. As a result of that, 128 interviews were conducted. And then, on November 24th, farming equipment and dozens of vehicles from the properties were seized to conduct investigations. In early October, all property was returned to the surviving family members. Ohio Attorney General Mike DeWine said this was the largest investigation in BCI history in terms of manpower and resources. He also believed the residents' theories of the victims knowing their killers well. Tips continued to pour in by the hundreds. Authorities received 770 tips by September 23rd. Then, on October 1st, Mike DeWine said the state had enough evidence for prosecution. Still not knowing who did this heinous crime, the Pike County Sheriff Charles Reeder urged residents with any knowledge of the crime to come forward and threatened he will arrest anyone who may be guilty of obstructing the investigation. And then, on May 12th, 2017, a raid of a Pike County home by SWAT and the Franklin County Sheriff's Office took place 10 miles from the crime scene. They were following a lead. They were looking for evidence, not suspects. Then, on June 20th, 2017, authorities were looking for additional information on Jake Wagner. This quickly turned into looking into his parents, Billy and Angela. Then, once again, it quickly turned into looking into his brother, George. At this time, they were all 4 living in Alaska. Authorities had received tips from several residents of Pike County that said they had distinct conversations about certain firearms, vehicles, and ammunition with members of this family. On November 13th, in 2018, Ohio Attorney General Mike DeWine announced that George Wagner, Angela Wagner, George Wagner IV, and Edward Wagner were all arrested and charged with planning and carrying out the murders. George Billy Wagner, 47, was booked into jail in Fayette County, Kentucky. He was extradited to Butler County. Angela Wagner, 48, was arraigned in Pike County Common Plea Court. She pled not guilty, and she is being held without bond at the county jail. George Wagner IV, 27, pled not guilty in a Pike County courtroom to 22 counts in connection with this massacre. Edward Wagner, 26, waived his right to a speedy trial. He was charged with 23 counts and is being held without bond. Rita Newcomb, 65, Angela's mother, and Frederica Wagner, George III's mother, were both arrested for obstruction of justice and perjury. Newcomb, however, is also charged with forging custody documents to cover up the crime. She pled guilty to a lesser crime in December of 2019. We will keep you updated with further developments.